All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak, and the State of the Nation discussion continues now. Joining us now is Duncan Okach, advocate of the High Court. We're still waiting for Joe Halende, advocate of the High Court as well, but Dan Manzo, Senator from Makueni, is with us here as well. Thank you for making time. And Okach, before you walked in, we were talking about this top story on the Standard. Another Ruto tax law bites the dust. And what does this mean for the country in your view, considering that now there's a conversation that we need to go back to the 2022 Finance Act?
Yeah, thank you very much, Trevor, for having me on the show. Ideally, this is unprecedented. It has not happened in this particular country, and majorly because it is expected that a lot of care is taken when crafting the Finance Act. And this becomes the mother law upon which collection of tax is hinged on. Therefore, for this particular time where we have two finance acts having issues, with the government withdrawing the 2024 Act, 2023 Act, there are already issues raised previously, and it's something that has been in court for quite some time. At this point, it means that any collection of taxes based on the 2023 Finance Act from yesterday is illegal, null and void. Actually, the Court of Appeal fell short of saying that they ought to refund the taxes that they have collected. Only that it said that that was not an issue at the High Court. So to that extent, there's that principle of, that any act of parliament is valid unless declared otherwise. So at this point, the government has no option, but because taxes must continue to be collected, so the government must revert now to the 2022 Finance Act, which in my view may not be within the actual parameters or agenda of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Remember, when they came into power, they said that we are going to use it just for the time being, so that our agenda is actually now properly captured in the Finance Act that will be our baby. And to that extent, that's why they say that the 2023 Finance Act will now actually be what will capture the aspirations of the Kenya Kwanza administration. So now there is no option. We are back to 2022 unless they have one more level. They can actually move to the Supreme Court, and if they get a stay from the Supreme Court, which I believe that is what ought to happen, they might do so. But remember, at this point, we do not have a principal legal advisor to the government in place. So also, this would ideally be the role of that principal legal advisor, who is the Attorney General. So there's also a big question that comes into play. For the court to consistently find acts of parliament unconstitutional when they raise a principal legal advisor, a big question is going to be asked. But maybe we can also say that maybe with the changes that are there, and I've heard senior counsel indicating the same, I believe we then have hope, because it's not the status quo that was. Okay.
Let's shift gears and now talk about politics, and I'll come back to you, Senator Manzo. Yes. Let's start with the broad-based government. What is the position of Wiper on this? Have you welcomed the broad-based government or not?
Well, we have opposed it, and there were no sufficient talks, or you see, between political parties. You know, Kenya has two main coalitions, the Kenya Kwanza coalition and Azimio coalition. So Kenya Kwanza coalition has not gone into talks with the Azimio coalition. It has gone into talks with the ODM. And even the Secretary General of ODM has issued statements saying that those who have left ODM to join the government have gone on their own. And ODM remains in Azimio coalition, because any party pulling out of Azimio coalition, then it changes a lot of things in the House. And that notwithstanding, I remember President Ruto one time, when he gave names, he said that the talks were over. Therefore, the so-called, conversation in the country, talks in the country. First of all, Kenya Kwanza has supermajority in the House. It was already running in government. I didn't see a point of sacking the whole cabinet and then returning back the same faces. If any cabinet secretary had failed in their duties, there was a way of dealing with it without necessarily embarrassing them, because none of them has been told, those who have been sacked, none of them have been told what they did wrong, and they have not been given an opportunity to defend themselves. And therefore, the president announced that he's going to do a broad-based government. First of all, that particular government he has now formed, it has not addressed the issues Kenyans had presented before him. And in fact, the Kenyans wanted him to resign for having failed to conduct the activities of the country as expected, and for having made very many promises which he has not kept. Therefore, the so-called broad-based government is an illegality anyway, because if you have to do it, then political parties have to make agreements, you know, and these agreements have to be deposited with the registrar of political parties. That has not happened. And, you know, for those who have gone to join the so-called broad-based government, which has now changed the voting version in the House and has done confusion in the House. You see people who are seated on the minority, like where we used to sit, where we sit with ODM. Some of them don't know now how to vote when it comes to voting, whether to vote with the government or to oppose. And that's going to create a bigger confusion in the country. I really want also to say the bigger problem is not exactly the cabinet secretaries. The bigger problem is the principal secretaries. And many departments of government are weakened, you know, like you can see the ODPP is unable to prosecute the killers of the many bodies lying in the mortuary in Nairobi here, you know, the City Council mortuary in Nairobi. Yeah. We have so many sick people in, you know, with gun wounds in Kenyatta National Hospital and many other hospitals. And I saw a mother in the news yesterday, in your news, asking President Ruto to say why the child is dead and what the child did. And if the child was not armed with a gun, why will you shoot somebody who is unarmed? So there are many issues unresolved, and I don't think they're going to be resolved by the so-called broad-based government. For me, I call it broad-based dictatorship. It's a new dictatorship in town. The problem is the principal secretaries. Yeah. And I can assure you a good example is Honorable Bandi. He will find it very difficult in Treasury. There are technocrats there. In fact, many technocrats have messed up this country. And it's a high time some of these serious was done. And there's such serious corruption in the country that unless you deal with corruption in the country, nothing is going to change soon. So I'm expecting Honorable Bandi now, who was telling President Ruto, you are carrying a skunk. You know, the so-called finance bill is a skunk. But he's the one who is going to make a skunk for Ruto now. He's the one who is going to read statements and say, this is Kenya Kwanza policies, this is bottoms-up policy. And then that is going to be prepared for him by people. Then there's no minister, there's no cabinet secretary who can move, especially in Treasury with a permanent secretary with a fixed mind. So we will need to look at the nation afresh. Probably the president is going to sack a few permanent secretaries. First of all, there are too many, drawing big salaries and doing nothing. You know, because the work they are doing can be done by one permanent secretary per ministry. Because it's just an accounting officer. All right. And therefore, I'm expecting all these, Hassan Joho is going to the so-called blue economy and fisheries and things like that, where Muvuria was. There's a very good permanent secretary there, but everybody is controlled from Treasury. If you don't have a budget or whatever plans you want to do, it's not achieved, what are you going to tell Kenyans? You are going to sit there and you will not deliver. All right,
we'll talk about the vetting in just a bit because that starts at 8 a.m. this morning. But Duncan, let's talk about this formation of the new government that you're seeing. What do you make of it, first of all, this broad-based government? Does it address the concerns that the people had?
Trevor, this formation that we have seen exemplifies what we have always been saying in terms of the Kenyan politics. We do not have politics of principles, you know. We do not have parties that stick to certain ideologies. And the essence of political parties is that you have ideologies that are identifiable to yourselves and to your members. That by the time you are saying we belong to this political formation, it is so unique that you can differentiate their ideals with the next political party. Now, even when we come to say that we have Azimio and Kenya Kwanza as coalitions, they still have their own ideals, which when we were going to the elections, they were saying we are as different as day and night. Thereafter, we've seen a lot of issues and the opposition telling us that the ruling party has these particular problems. Their policies are upside down, they are bottom up, and it will not deliver. Then within a very short time, you now cannot differentiate who is in the opposition, who is in the ruling party. And it is a very big problem. It tells you that you do not have politics of principles or governed by principles. If you look at the other democracies, you know that when you are in Britain, you are in Labour Party, it stands for something. And for someone to even dare cross over, it means you have changed your ideals and principalities. If you look at the US, the Democrats and the Republicans, it's not every day you'll see people playing this particular watermelon game. You do not see it. But in Kenya, now we can see people shamelessly doing it and trying to tell us it is the order of the day. Then what happens to all the criticisms that these people had, even on the policies of the government of the day? They are now going to government to do what? Is it to implement their own policies, which were they actually stood for, or is it to now implement the policies of Kenya Kwanza? And that's where now you do not see any difference in terms of who is Kenya Kwanza, who is Azimio. But even if they do so, because that, of course, is the death of opposition as we know it, because ideally, Azimio is ODM. The others are just flower girls, for lack of a better word. If you look at Kenya Kwanza, it's UDA. The others are flower girls, for lack of a better word. And that is why I saw, I don't know if it was correct, yesterday I saw Raila Odinga and the luminaries meeting, I think, at Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation.
The picture is right there in front.
It's actually right here. And then Dan Manzo is telling you here how bad it is, you know, how dictatorial it is. Yet they were the host of these same people. And it tells you there's a problem with our politics. Now, if you look at Dan Manzo's party that now wants to tell us that this is so bad. I remember seeing Dan Manzo, and history is very good, in 2007 when there was an issue in terms of elections, whether they were proper, they were stolen. Do you know it was even Kalonzo Musyoka, Dan Manzo, and the rest who crossed over very fast and joined the government when there was an issue of the validity of an election. And it was only, actually that, I believe, was one of the major reasons why we never got to the bottom of who won that election. But they are the same people today who are now telling you, no, this is wrong. The problem with politicians is that, you know, it's about if it was Dan Manzo appointed, today he will be expecting us to support. They didn't reject. Actually, at that time they were supporting, and Dan Manzo, being a very senior lawyer, was actually supporting that particular position. So in our politics, there is and the need to cleanse this politics. Yeah. And that is what the Gen Z are telling people, that we are tired of this picky ponky. You know, you cannot be, you know, doing the same dalliance, telling us this is bad, then immediately you join the bad people and you want to be seen as angels. Okay. There's a problem there in our political hygiene, and I think the Gen Z will come and clean up and enable. And 2027 is not so far, because it will be so difficult to understand now who is this, who then will be standing in the shoes of opposition between now and then, and who deserves the mandate of Kenyans in terms of their change agenda.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, because I've been accused personally. I want to say that 2007 it was clear. Even Kivuitu, before he passed on and his soul rest in peace, he said he didn't know who won the election. Therefore, after you see, we had run. We were not the opposition. Our party had run for election, and we were number 3. And therefore, we formed a coalition. You know, you can form a coalition before elections or after elections. And we formed a coalition with Mwai Kibaki then and stabilized his government. Therefore, eventually, after further talks, and you know, there was a commission which was set up to find out about that, and then the constitution. We are now to get the 2010 constitution. And therefore, also, Raila Odinga and ODM still came into that as a prime minister. Therefore, there was a care government prepared for purposes of preparing a new constitution and for purposes of, you know, cleaning up the politics and making sure that no other elections are stolen. But that didn't happen. Elections still continue to be stolen. Therefore, we still need to find a solution. I want to say that there is no gap. You know, Wiper Party is not a flower girl party. We are a parliamentary party, and as soon as ODM leaves, you know, if ODM decides to leave Azimio, then Azimio is a minority party, is a opposition party. And even without ODM, we have sufficient opposition, and we will run the government.
So will you be
we will oppose the government.
As Wiper, because you're saying that if ODM decides to leave, will you as Wiper be leaving? Because we've seen
no, we won't leave.
NAC send you a message.
We have rejected. We will not leave. We will stay in the opposition. We will oppose the current government. We don't believe in the bottom-up policy, which has failed seriously so far, with a lot of lies and, you know, and a lot of, without giving Kenyans hope, and poor performance in government. You know, corruption has increased in government, and no one is very sure, and the cost of living has gone very high. We were with ODM saying cost of living is high. The reasons given by ODM to join Kenya Kwanza are very flimsy, but even they are divided about it. That's why you have seen Sifuna come out candidly that as ODM, we have not joined government. And those who have gone on there. And I was in that meeting of Azimio, where this decision was supposed to be made. And I can assure you, by the time the press conference was being disrupted, the position was that we were not boarding. So therefore, a few people have decided to board, and that is for them. They will deal with it. They will be accountable to Kenyans as soon as they go to that. So we are very principled as a political party. We are going to remain in the opposition.
Yeah, Rokacha has something to say.
What he's not telling you, and that's why I'm saying these parties have their leaders. He's not telling you why yesterday we can see Kalonzo Musyoka hosting what he now calls the government where Raila Odinga is, and what is the aspect of them meeting? Did they discuss this issue?
You should first be asking what was this meeting about, and you be in ODM, you should have called on Raila Odinga and asked him why he had gone to Wiper.
I'm not in ODM, but...
you should have called him and asked him why there was that meeting. You can see Orengo there, senior counsel.
We'll give you a chance to respond. Let catch finish. Yes.
Yes. So there was a strict indication from their party that they are not joining, and that the decision made by ODM is their own decision. And to that extent, it then, and of course people will meet. Meeting is quite okay. But with those divergent views at this particular point, it will be important where if there are concerns, those are the concerns that should have been addressed at this point. But the problem with the political parties we have is that if you find that today Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka says, we have agreed and we are supporting, no. Dan Manzo will be here tomorrow supporting that particular position, despite the fact that Kenyans will play clips of his avowments today, and they will not care. And that is why you see the Mbadis, the Johos, Kenyans are playing those clips, but no one feels any shame on what they said. And the question will be, what has changed? This is a Kenya Kwanza monster that you told Kenyans, you know, that we have. Today, you are joining that monster, and you are not telling us what has changed, and you are telling us that monster is so good, and things will be so rosy. It is not proper. I think one of the most principled leaders this country has had is Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta has stuck to his position, come day, come night. And that is the kind of leadership that you'd want. That if you think this is not right, stick to that and try to correct it from that point. We cannot have a position where a party is saying we are donating our people to go to government, but we are remaining in opposition. You cannot have your cake and eat it. The reality of the day is that ODM has crossed to government, ODM is government, and anyone saying anything of that sort, that is the height of hypocrisy in this country, which people should not. It's actually abusing the intelligence of Kenyans when someone is saying that you are in government, you're actually going to be in control of this economy. The issues of this Finance Act and the cost decision will be decisions that must be made by your own person. Then you'll tell us, again, you'll be in the opposition opposing who? You're opposing yourself. You cannot be. You must choose one position and you take it up. Even if it is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka must decide. You know, people have said all these stories of watermelon. I think this is high time now for him to ensure that that particular tag is not with him, by taking a position, sticking to it.
Okay. And Manzo, speaking of positions, Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper Party leader, had mentioned that the instructions to the Wiper legislators is to reject the ODM nominees to the cabinet. Is that still the position after this meeting? You know,
clearly this meeting is written there as the mayor chief quiz Raila on dalliance with Ruto.
Yeah.
So that tells you what was happening yesterday. And our position is very clear that we are going to remain in opposition. We are not going to join government. It is true what Okachi say that you cannot have one leg in government and another leg in opposition. You have to decide where you are and why you have decided to join government. But it is for obvious reasons. I would not have expected Raila Odinga to go to African Union without, you know, leaving home in chaos. You will not have the moral authority. So I'll understand him in an effort to stabilize the current government, which also must support him to go to Addis Ababa. You have to live with your country's blessings. So now that he has applied, and we wish him well in Addis Ababa, and I believe he will win, that is good for Kenya. But the effort he has done to stabilize the country, I don't think ODM joining government has solved the problem of Kenyans. While the Gen Zs, you know, went to the streets, and while they were joined by the goons, the so-called goons, according to them, has not been addressed. I believe these were just frustrated young people who feel that no one is listening. And that is very natural, you know, way of one expressing themselves. Even if you push a cat into a corner, it's likely to scratch you, although it's a small animal. Therefore, I don't think that is going to sort out anything. The government already had supermajority. If ODM adds more votes on the side of government, it will still not help. So with this position of voting for the nominees, we still reject. We will oppose them, we will vote no in the House. And
why? Shouldn't it be based on merit and their performance rather than which parties they belong to?
It's not about a party, it is about the principality, and it's about the character of the person. It is about the expectation. You know, the nomination, the team is going to do its work and bring a report. After vetting, they will bring a report to the House. And maybe many more will fall. You know, maybe the president has got to nominate for those who will fall, I'm sure, and they'll fall for good reasons. I'll give a good example. You know, a very smart lawyer like Kidiki, people have died in his departments. Police are under him. Police have killed the people. The DPP is insisting he has no evidence. The killers of these young people, like Rex Kanyeki, Masai, are known. There are videos. The role of IPOA is not to investigate. It's not the work of police. And it's not the work of ODPP. IPOA is to listen to complaints against the policemen and find out what exactly happened. You know, the government has given the free will to go on and do you know, an inquest into each particular death. What happens, a magistrate court sits, and then Kenyans, public who know what happened, come and give evidence on record and on oath. And then they will pin down a particular person, and that will advise the ODPP to prosecute those particular people. So how is Kidiki and the president, how they say they have nothing to do with the deaths? I want to say the blood of all Kenyans in the morgue now, and those who have been buried, their blood is in the hands of Ruto and Kidiki.
Okay.
So that particular one may affect Kidiki in the vetting. But I leave it to the voters. I leave it to the House.
Yeah.
But for me, if I were to vote, you know, I will not vote for somebody who has not explained, or whereby even the IG who has been retired, is not facing the law. Somebody must face the law. If you killed an innocent person, you must face either an inquest, a murder trial, or a manslaughter trial. But you cannot get away with it and say there is justice in the country.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Trevor, there's one question you've asked my senior here, and he's not answering. There was a meeting yesterday. Is there any communication from their party on their position as to the nominees, especially from ODM? It is very important because when you see they are quiet and they are not telling us, chances are high they will support these nominees.
No.
But the issue will be, even if there is no issue of ODM crossing, it's an issue of nominees, the issue at stake now is about their qualification, not even their parties. Are they qualified? Are they tainted? Are they the right people to be in those positions? So that you don't just support because the party has said support. You don't just oppose sheepishly like the MPs were doing when we are talking about the Finance Act, so that you just take a party position without reasoning. What happened in terms of the Finance Act should have made MPs now know that they need to make decisions based on their brains, based on their knowledge, not based on a party position. But when you look at it and moving it forward, in terms of Kithure Kindiki, and we must also, call a spade a spade. The reality is that the reign of Kithure Kindiki has come with a lot of sacrifice from himself. We have seen a lot of improvement in terms of the security sector, and those are the things that also should be looked at. When it comes to the demonstrations, remember, police are under the command of the IG, and none other than the president said that and gave them autonomy. So that if there was any issue, we have seen the IG resigning. And we have seen the process of coming up with a new IG taking shape. So it cannot then be that just because the house help of Dan Manzo does something wrong, then he's the one to take up the blame. The buck at this particular point will stop with the IG who had that command aspect. And those are things that will be dealt with at the house. Yeah. But we cannot always say that just because someone under you did something wrong, especially when you are not directly in command, yeah, that you must take the blame. For these people, let's vet them, let Parliament vet them fairly. As individuals. As individuals and based on their track record, because they are going to serve the country, each and every one of us. Okay.
Now, I must rectify something there. I want to say that Professor Kindiki, yeah, as a person, has done very well. But there is something called political responsibility. Who bears somebody must have given instruction. For the IG to behave the way he did, there must be some instructions. But again, also the police officers must know, finally, there is also personal responsibility with you as an officer. Okay. Yeah. And at the moment you are prosecuted, yeah, then Kindiki and the president are indemnified. But so long as you are not being prosecuted, yeah, because of political pressure, then there's a problem there. But I want to say that Professor Kindiki has tried very much in a very murky waters, in a very difficult department with independent organs. But finally, somebody must bear, okay, the political responsibility, and that is different from any other thing. I want to wish Professor Kindiki well, yeah, in the vetting. And I think, we saw how best he tried. But there was also only one failure, the regulations. You see, the regulations of the Public Order Act, yeah, and the Penal Code are very old. The last ones were made by Amos Wako when he was Attorney General over 20 years ago, okay, and they expire after 10 years. So as a lawyer, the first thing was to renew the regulations. But now he started issuing them too late. Okay. They will be issued like without going to Parliament, and they become regulations. Those are illegal regulations. Okay. I believe he has time to correct that.
All right. Joining us now is Joe Halende, is an advocate of the High Court, and also he declared himself the Secretary General of UDA just the other day. But there was drama at the UDA headquarters in Nairobi as police engaged supporters of the embattled party Secretary General Cleophas Malala, who had camped at the party offices to protest the takeover of his post by self-declared Secretary General Joe Halende, who's with us here. UDA chairperson Cecily Mbarire castigated the attempted party coup, saying Halende's move was against the party constitution, affirming that Malala was still the Secretary General. As Emmanuel Toh now reports, Halende had gone to occupy the SG's office, was injured, and was rushed to hospital. Watch.
Wednesday morning, and tension was palpable at the UDA party headquarters as supporters of UDA Secretary General Cleopas Malala, who had camped at the Hustler Plaza gate, engaged the police for hours as they protested the push to kick Malala out of office. The standoff between the police, who exercised a lot of restraint, pushing back the protesters, temporarily affecting traffic along the busy Ngong Road. In the ensuing melee, the self-appointed Secretary General Joe Halende sustained serious injuries on his head and was rushed to the hospital for treatment.
I'm doing well, despite the fact that I sustained some minor or some grievous injuries. I also wish to take this opportunity to condemn the acts of violence that were witnessed today at the party.
The incident forcing party officials to intervene, with the UDA chairperson Cecily Mbarire calling out Halende's move to institute a coup in the party.
Somebody cannot come to the party and declare himself or herself an official of the party without following the laid down party procedures for him or her to be the position they declare they belong to.
The chairperson, who admitted to serious cracks in the ruling party, announcing that a crisis meeting had been called to iron out the issues so far.
Tuko na challenges kwa chama, tuko na mvurugano hapa na pale, ndio maana tuko na hiyo neck meeting on Friday kuangalia hiyo maneno na tutatue hiyo maneno pia.
Halende, who claimed to have had the blessings of all the rest of the party organs to take over as SG, accused Malala of opposing the broad-based government that President William Ruto has been crafting with the ODM party. But even as the party tries to find a way out of the current quagmire, reports indicate a covert plot to kick out Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as UDA deputy party leader. The highly placed sources indicate that Malala reportedly declined to institute proceedings against the deputy party leader, a move that will have set the ball rolling on a possible impeachment motion of Gachagua as deputy president.
The fate of the wrangles within the UDA party is now expected to be resolved by the National Executive Committee meeting slated for Friday this week, as the party tries to find a way out of the current situation only 2.5 years after occupying power. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, UDA headquarters, Nairobi.
Well, Joe, thanks for making time, and I hope you're feeling better now. I see you still have the hat covering the injuries you sustained.
Yes.
But who made you the Secretary General of UDA?
Trevor, as I answer your question, I'll also be responding to what the good chair lady Cecily Mbarire said, that an individual. I'm here not because I'm seeking this position as a person. I'm here speaking on behalf of millions of founder members of UDA party. And history will tell us that the last elected Secretary General of a political party in this country was elected in 2005, and that was none other than William Ruto, when he was elected the Secretary General of Kano. That is the last election that put somebody in a political office. So we have had a series of moments where political parties are run like people's kiosk. We as founder members of UDA know our history. We know our history, how we ended up with UDA. We were in Jubilee because of the same mandarins or individuals or crooks who hijack a political party. We were kicked out of Jubilee using none other than Raphael Tuju, the former Secretary General of Jubilee. We went as Tanga Tanga. We moved on, Hustler movement. We formed a political machine which is now a ruling party called UDA. And as founder members, what we are saying is that we will not sit back and watch our party, our beloved party called UDA, going down the drain. We will kick out individuals. We will kick out people who are masquerading within the party, who have hijacked the party, not to move on. The other day, in fact, the reasons why we are here as a country, why we have had demonstrations all over, it's because of these same individuals who have hijacked the party. The president admitted that, yes, maybe one of the mistakes of how we ended up where we are as a country is the failure of communication on the agendas of the government.
Yeah.
Who communicates on behalf of the government? It is the ruling political party that does the communication and the grassroots.
But Joe, why didn't you follow due process? Why didn't you follow due process?
The process is there.
But you did not follow it.
There's one thing that my senior here will tell you. We call it extra-constitutional means.
So you
the party belongs to members. The party does not belong to Cleophas Malala or anybody else. So if the members decided so, who am I? You know, the voice of people is the voice of God.
But the National Executive Council never met. Whose blessings
you see?
Do you have the blessing of the party leader? Let me
even the chair lady has said that she admitted that yes, there are a series of issues within the party. Members have raised issues. You know, Trevor, there must come a time. You know, the process of change is very painful. But at the end of the day, we must have that change.
But you're not answering my question. Who gave you the blessings? Do you have the blessings from
founder members of UDA?
But do you have blessings from the party leader?
The party organs, starting with the party structure, from the party leader to all the organs, are well aware of this process.
As the president endorsed you as the Secretary General?
I don't want to put the name of the president here, but I'm specifically answering your question by telling you that leader, so all the party organs...
Is he aware that he's the one who's the Secretary General? Yes. Is he aware?
Yes.
And the Deputy President?
Yes.
They're both aware?
Yes.
Then why is the meeting on Friday? Because if you say that they're already there...
To officially communicate that Cleophas Malala is not the Secretary General of UDA.
Who attacked you yesterday?
Cleophas Malala and 5 goons.
Did you record a statement to this effect?
Yes.
And why was that happening? If you have the blessing of everybody else, then why are the members supporting UDA attacking you?
I cannot answer on behalf of Cleophas Malala why he attacked me. He's the one who's supposed to answer that question, why he attacked me.
But the blessings that you're talking about should come from the members themselves as well. They say you're an individual who just declared himself as Secretary General.
You see, Trevor, we had a meeting, a brief meeting, on the day before the declaration was made.
With who?
With the members, with the founder members of the party. Then we made that declaration. After that, we had another meeting yesterday to put the activities within the party, to put them in place. Yeah. The party has been hijacked. The party has been taken into a limbo.
Yeah.
So we wanted to revive the political activities across the board. That means that we wanted to get the clarification from NEB to give the go-ahead, because that communication will just come from elections board, to give ahead the resumption of the grassroots election, the political activities within the party, the ones that were going on, the rebranding and the recruitment of members is supposed to start. So that is the process. And we are in the process of we are in the middle of the process of having to form a broad-based government. Okay. So those are among the political activities within the party that should keep the party vibrant. So we were starting that meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Manzo, when you listen to what's going on here, and Alende says now that there's no substantive Secretary General election that has happened since 2005, and he's now declared himself the Secretary General of UDA. What do you read into this?
Well, he said it has been proposed by members. And, you know, UDA has a very vibrant youth. In fact, most of them dissatisfied with a lot of things. It's a high time we set the record straight, you know, on as many political parties as possible.
Yeah.
You heard that Halende was trying to, you know, to do what. I remember a few days ago they had proposed elections, and they kept on being postponed.
Yeah.
So I believe they are going to eventually conduct elections as UDA, and Halende will become the Secretary General of the party. But there must be a process of election. What happens is that all those who are serving as interim officials of the political party, and therefore they have to be confirmed through an election.
Okay.
So I want to wish him well when they agree on the elections. But unfortunately, most political parties have kept on postponing their elections out of interference. That when you want to do, you must identify, you must have a party list which is registered with the registrar of political parties. And then, IBC is very useful when it comes to conducting elections of political parties. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have a fully constituted IBC. So ordinarily, political parties would ask or hire IBC to conduct their elections. And therefore, they will follow the party lists so that a Secretary General is elected from the grassroots to the top. And I want to wish you well when that comes.
All right. Okach, what legal options are available now? You can see the standoff that is ongoing at the UDA.
Yes. First of all, sorry for what you have gone through. I think this is one of the issues that young people have been saying, whenever they try to take leadership or we are saying they have come of age, there are so many impediments that are put on their way. And I don't think this is one of the things that people will want to see, especially happening to any young person aspiring to be a leader. But having said so, parties are actually legal creatures. They have their constitution, they have their structures, they have, proper dispute resolution mechanisms embedded within all parties, so that if there is an issue, the first point of call is their internal dispute resolution mechanism. If that doesn't fail, of course, we have set up courts to deal with political party issues, and even if that fails, you actually move to the normal courts, the high courts. To that extent, at this particular point, one thing, it's not the best of positions for the president's party, UDA itself, and especially being the main party in the ruling coalition, to have these dramas happening, and especially at the point where the president is trying to deal with the Gen Z issues that are now widely an issue affecting the entire nation. So I think it will be best for the president's party to, as soon as possible, be able to deal with this issue. On Friday, they confirm Kalende, if that is the position, so that it brings this, this issue to normalcy. Okay. It will not then be good that, rows brew within the party. This party is so young a party compared to all the other parties. Yeah. And you see, it is not only the issue about Halende and Malala. We even have now, in the same clip we've seen, there's an issue between now the deputy president and the party. Really? So there are so many issues which says the problem is not in Halende, Malala, or anyone, but the problem is within the party structures. How do they resolve their own issues, which now have the impact of even affecting government operations itself? Okay. So that's the bigger issue, but the law is there to deal with such issues. If there was any harm to him, he's a lawyer by right. Yeah. He's following that process.
Alende, the chairperson, Cecily Kariuki, says you attempted a coup at the party. What is your response to that?
Trevor, in our 2010 constitution, Article 55 talks about the young people. And it specifically says that the state shall take measures including affirmative actions, programs, to ensure that the youth have the opportunities to associate, to be represented, and participate in political, social, economic, and other spheres of life. As my brother was saying, young people cannot sit back and wait for these opportunities to be given to them. And as one Professor Yuval Noah puts it, if the decision to change your life is made in your absence because you are busy feeding and clothing your children, you and they will make the consequences. You will pay for the consequences. Some of us do not want to pay for the consequences. We want to be part and parcel of the process. We want to be there. And the correct way to be there is participate in the political party's affairs, participate in the formation of government, and be able to be on the table of decision making.
Yeah.
The reason, the single reason why the young people are on the street is the failure of communication of the ruling party. We want to make that correction. The failure of involving young people in the process of decision making. We want to correct that mistake so that as a country, young people are involved in day-to-day making of the decision.
Okay.
As I walked in, you were discussing about the cabinet nominees.
Yes.
As young people in this country, we are impressed that a fellow young person, 32-year-old, has been nominated to be a cabinet. That is where the decisions are made. That's where policies are made, government policies are made. Now, as young people, we have a voice on the decision-making table. We don't want to be just people to be hired to clap for others. We want to be on the table making decisions. So that tomorrow, when the Gen Zs ask questions about this government, I can be able to say that this is what we discussed as a government, and this is what we decided as a government, and this is how issues to do with Gen Zs can be sorted out.
Okay, and I asked you a question whether you staged a coup, but you did answer it. But let me bring in Emmanuel Toh now. Emmanuel Toh is at the Parliament precinct where the vetting of the cabinet nominees is just about to kick off, maybe in the next 4 minutes or so. Emmanuel, good morning. It's good to see you. So what's the latest from where you are? Have some of the cabinet nominees already arrived?
Well, thank you very much, Trevor. And of course, some of those nominees have already started coming in. We are having the first nominee, Abraham Kithure Kindiki, the professor of law, who has been nominated back to his docket of Interior and National Administration, and is already arrived here as he waits to be vetted and coming back to the familiar territory of that same docket, facing the 20-member team that is currently already taken up their positions in the committee here at the Continental House, and we'll be having some more details about that vetting. Remember, Kindiki is coming back to the same docket that he occupied before that ceremonial sacking of the whole cabinet by President William Ruto, as he seeks to come up with a broad-based cabinet that is going to turbocharge his administration, as he says. And of course, there's some questions that will be coming up for Kindiki, and that will be there's a vehicle that is passing here. Let me just excuse myself quickly. And of course, there are those questions about the police, how the police handled the protest that saw those changes that came in government. And of course, the almost 60 people who were killed during the demonstrations, that question will be coming up because many of them had gunshot wounds. And of course, this will be a big question for that nominee who will be coming back for that vetting. We'll also be checking as to whether his net worth has gone up, because the last time he was here about 2 years ago, he was worth 544 or thereabout million shillings. And after now occupying office for that period of about 2 years, perhaps this would have gone up, and we'll be getting some more details. He's not the only one who will be facing the panel today. We'll be having others after Kindiki. We'll be having Deborah Mlongo, who's Dr. Deborah Mlongo, who has been nominated to the health docket. Alice Wahome, of the CS nominee for lands, will be coming as well. We'll be having Migos Ogamba, the CS nominee for education, and the defense CS will be defending herself at around 5 p.m. Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, who's been moved to the docket of defense, will be coming here as well, closing the day in a marathon 5-day hearings or vettings that will be beginning very soon. Critically as well, we're also having those changes in the membership of the Committee on Appointments, where the opposition side or the minority side have made changes to their membership. Remember, the minority leader and of course the chief whip of the minority side have 2 slots, of course, from that side of leadership occupying that position, and we expect that the minority leadership slot will be taken by Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed, who is also going to now occupy that office after yesterday's changes, and of course Milio Diambo, the Suba North Member of Parliament, will be taking up that slot that will have been left by Junet Mohammed as the chief whip representative of the minority side. So we have a lot of activities, but we'll be giving you the details as they unfold. And of course, some of those members are still coming in, and we'll be giving you those details, Trevor.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Emmanuel told they're giving us live updates from Parliament precincts. He says that some of the nominees have already arrived for the vetting. It's supposed to start at 8 a.m., which is already 8 a.m. As soon as it starts, we'll take you there live to hear the proceedings as soon as that happens. But Joe, we were talking about the coup that you allegedly staged, and the chairperson said that you staged a coup. And also, another question, should the Friday team resolve that you are not the Secretary General, what happens then?
The party belongs to the people. UDA is a people-centered party. And the party members spoke that Joe Halende is the Secretary General and not Cleophas Malala. So it is the people.
Should that change on Friday, then what happens?
Well and good. Now, it is, as a citizen of this country, we have a national duty to participate in the process of national building. And that is my sole duty as a citizen of this country. I must participate in the process of national building. As a country, we are in that hard moment of building the nation. And building the nation, the president has directed that we must have a broad-based government.
Manzo is calling it a broad-based dictatorship.
Manzo is entitled to his opinion. And that's why the beauty about it is that we belong in different positions. I belong in the position that we must have a national broad-based government.
Yeah.
He is saying that it's different from him, but we are not fighting. He has not kicked me, I have not kicked him. That's the country that we are dreaming of. Yeah. That's the country that we must build, that every opinion must be accommodated. Okay. Yes.
Are you aware of any difference between the president and the deputy president? Because you said both of them endorsed you.
I'm not aware of the differences between the president and the deputy president.
The allegations that there's a chance to impeach the president. Have you heard of that?
And I've been asked that question several times, and my answer is that now, since I'm the Secretary General, we are bringing all the members of UDA together. We must work together. We must iron these issues within UDA together. We cannot iron them in a tribal cocoon. We must iron them as a national political party. You see, there's a famous quote from Martha Karua, and it always says that a country is as good as its political parties. There are people who belong to that persuasion of forming village political parties, but I belong to the persuasion that to solve the issues that are bedeviling this country, we must have serious national political party where everybody is involved, where everybody is part and parcel of the conversation. So the conversation is having a national political party, not just an outlook. You know, there are parties that are formed with an outlook that represent the country, but yet they are village parties. But for us, what we are saying that UDA is a national party, and we must remain as a national party. We cannot be going in a corner kusema hawa ni watu wa mrengo huu, hawa ni watu wa mrengo huu, ama these people come from a certain region. No, we are a national political party, and we must remain as a national political party.
How far are you willing to go with this fight?
Trevor, I think you have seen what the young people can do in this country. I think the country has seen what the young people can do in this country. What we are saying is that we are going to the full extent to save UDA political party. We cannot sit back and see our party die just the way Jubilee died. We must revive this political party. This is a God-ordained process. We are saving UDA. Okay. We are revamping it.
All right.
UDA is here to stay. Okay. UDA can't die just after 2 years. UDA must stay and go into 27 election, go into 2032, and into the future.
Okay.
You know, Trevor, I'm a father of a 3-month young boy. And when Cleophas Malala and the goons attacked me, at some point, I lost, I blacked out.
Yeah.
But the one picture that remained in my face of that little young boy, that face, that beautiful face of that young boy remained in my eyes. And I've been asking myself throughout the night, what was that? But I have the answer. That we must build this country. We must change this country so that myself and the future can have a country, can have a nation that everything is okay. We cannot allow the goons to take over. We cannot allow anarchy to take over.
Okay.
We must have a country.
Yeah.
A country that everybody, that every voice is included.
You keep mentioning Cleophas Malala's name. I hope you've officially lodged a complaint on this, because then...
You see, I'm an advocate, and I believe in the Constitution and the rule of law.
Yes.
That one will, the criminal justice system will take its place.
But you've already reported this?
Yes, I've reported the matter at Kilimani police station.
Okay.
So, and the criminal justice process will take the course, the due process.
Okay, we're on standby for the vetting. As soon as it kicks off, I will take you straight to Parliament where it's happening, so we can show you live pictures there. I believe Abraham Kithure Kindiki, the nominee for Interior, is the first one who will take the hot seat. And you can see the Speaker of the National Assembly already seated there, ready to start this vetting process. As soon as that kicks off, we'll go there. And Manzo, this is what we were talking about before this.
Yes.
The vetting process are now kicked off.
Yes.
How then do we ensure that the nation gets the people they deserve at a time when the nation itself has spoken very loudly that they have no confidence in Parliament?
Yes, there's a very big problem with the confidence of Parliament, because there was a talk that Parliament had become a captive of the executive, and in fact Parliament was not doing the work the people elected them to do. They were just there to be a rubber stamp, and therefore we want to see a fair process whereby all issues are raised and are responded, so that all Kenyans are satisfied with the people who are going to be nominated to become cabinet secretaries, because they are going to hold cabinet secretaries. You know, cabinet is part of the organs in the constitution on which government is formed, so that we can have a government which can deliver for the people of Kenya. The biggest problem is integrity and the trust deficit between the leaders and the people. With a clear vetting process, the people will gain confidence with the government. And where somebody doesn't, qualify, then we should be seeing other nominees be proposed, and that person agrees to go and do other things or reorganize their lives and create a better future for themselves. One of the biggest problems are people who have looted the nation, suspected criminals, be given, their names be given to be vetted to become, ministers, yet what has been entrusted with them before has been looted and their questions or their proceedings. Although you can only conclude when somebody has gone through all the criminal processes up to the Court of Appeal and probably where there are constitutional issues up to the Supreme Court, then that person is clean. But so long as you are suspected or you are in a process, then that is left upon the ESCC to clear you or not to clear you. Because for you to get to the vetting desk, you must also be cleared by ESCC. So if they are saying we have something against you, then that has to be dealt with. So that
one of the nominees, ESCC, has actually already written to Parliament saying they have a problem with the Paranya, with Clifford Paranya.
Yes, I'm saying now that is left to the process of vetting and then the court processes. You may still decide to challenge that. Because unless you are convicted, you are only a suspect. And you see, when you are a suspect, it doesn't mean you are guilty. It means you may prove the allegations against you, or you may make good whatever may have been lost within your hands. Because while you are holding government offices, there is likelihood, and the Constitution says then you make it good in case something got lost while you are doing that. Meanwhile, I want to wish Halende well and wish him quick recovery. Hope that you have gone through thorough medical examinations. As a lawyer, you are aware that injuries, may become fatal. And then, that particular person you have accused will then be charged. And therefore, it is important to go through a thorough medical examination to make sure that you are safe. And that I want to wish him well. I'm sure if there is fairness, then Halende should become the Secretary General of and make good the party, because the governments are as good as the political parties. And when you see a political party which has formed a government having problems, it means the government is likely to have problems. We want to compete as political parties, and at the same time, I want to encourage the Gen Zs, first of all, to take, if you have no ID, make sure you have an identity card. Then when it comes to time to register as a voter, register as a voter. And then then join a political party or form one, and then compete, for power. And the Gen Zs are 15 million in number. If all those Kenyans vote, there will definitely be a difference in this country. And I want to encourage most of them to join political parties or even to stand independently in the next election. That's a better way of inviting them into leadership so that they can make the leadership of Kenya better than they found it.
Yes, I think what we are seeing, and Halende has said, we have a problem with our political parties whereby people are not getting elected. People are just getting appointed to very serious party structures which require election. I think this is a rallying call to all political parties to put their house in order. UDA and I believe ODM were already in the process of their elections, and I hope that ideally Halende will ascend to this particular position through election, and that will be a very decent way of ascending to it. Today is the day we are commemorating the 1981 coup, and it wasn't a good thing, and that's why it's not good when words are used that what Halende was actually doing was a coup, because it doesn't, that word especially being used today is not a very good word. In terms of the vetting of the House nominees, you remember the vetting that happened through this appointments committee did come up with a lot of issues on some of the nominees. But the main house neglected all that pursuant to, the Azimio, not even the Azimio, the Kenya Kwanza party deciding that we will support and we'll use our numbers. So even those where there were issues, the House even went against the decision of this committee. So let it not be that the committee will just be doing its work for the sake of it, yet a decision has been made that the MPs will still use their numbers to pass these names regardless of the issues that will be raised. On this other issue of ESCC, This is a country where we have seen people politicizing these agencies and using them for political purposes. The constitution remains clear, and that happened, that was actually codified by the decision of the High Court when Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto were vying. So that once you are a suspect, even if you have been charged, you remain a suspect. That by itself cannot be used to stop you from ascending to any seat. Because if that is the case, Trevor, if tomorrow you want to vie for Nyando, or where we are being told you may be there in 2027, and I do not want you to be there, Trevor, I will create a case and say, and have the EACC or any other organ say that Trevor has a case here. Then I will have defeated you, and that is not what the ideals, or what is the ideal behind the presumption of innocence doctrine in the Constitution. So the letter by EACC is actually not supposed to be used to affect a person's credibility. Because remember, this is an accuser. You cannot be the one accusing, investigating, and you have judged. You'd have actually started punishing Oparanya before a determination of whether he's guilty. You're just innocent. Remember, Jesus Christ was accused of so many things in this world, and we still say he's still our Savior, Lord, Savior. But he's the one who, when people were told, they even chose Pontius Pilate and said Jesus to go asulubiwe. So let's not be a country where we are back to those things which, you know, people should have learned long time ago. I also wish Kalende well. I'm so proud of him as a young leader. This is what we need to encourage in terms of young leadership. And this will be one of the panaceas to these Gen Z issues, and will lead to a brighter future. We do not say a brighter future tomorrow. The future is today.
Okay. Joe, what is your position right now going into Friday when the NEC will be meeting? There's been accusations that you staged a coup. There's been accusations that you're still not the Secretary General. How far are you willing to go with this?
Trevor, I am ready to die for the voices of millions of UDA founder members. I am ready to die so that my little child can have a brighter future ahead. I am ready to die so that young people can sit on the table of decision making. Trevor, I am ready to die so that we can have a country we call Kenya. This is a God-ordained process. This is a God-ordained opportunity. If it were not for the founder members of this country to fight the colonial master, we could not have this country. Now it is our opportunity as young people to build a brighter future for ourselves. And we are ready to die for that process to happen. Because we were supposed to have grassroots elections as a party. Cleophas Malala and his cartels frustrated the process. They have been getting fake court orders left, right, and center until the process was stopped. The government has an agenda, and agenda number one was to formulate a broad-based government. Cleophas Malala and his cartels are frustrating that process. The agenda of the so-called individuals within the party is to oppose the president. We are not going to allow. We are fully behind the president, and the president should be given the opportunity to formulate a government of competent men and women who can be able to solve the problem that we as Kenyans are suffering, so that we can save this country and we can move forward as a country.
Okay. Let's bring up some of the feedback that's coming through, then I'll give you each a minute for closing remarks. Then we'll cross over to Parliament. I believe they should be ready just about now. The vetting was supposed to start at 8. I'm told that they're still not ready, but we'll cross over there shortly as we speak about that. Let's bring up first of all, most of the tweets that are coming here. Hosseino Mark 1 says, power is never given, it is taken. Alende is not the first one. I congratulate him. Hooliganism should be condemned. Beating him up is criminal and uncouth. Perpetrators of violence should be dealt with in accordance with the law. Okay? Peter says the idea of ODM members to join government is a good idea, but the role of opposition to put the government of the day on check will be totally affected. Dixon says the just declared unconstitutional 2023 finance bill should be squarely blamed on Wetangula, Kingi, Ishungwa, Kimani Kuria, and Ndindi Nyoro. They don't listen to the views of the public but uses tyranny of numbers to pass the bills. Bob says we've seen over time that countries that have the best economic growth are those that have good governance, and good governance comes from freedom of communication, ending corruption, and legislation that is conducive to investors as well as the taxpayers. Okay. Before I cross over to Parliament, Okach had not gotten your views on this. More DP allies are questioned over the role of protest that they took on there. There are many who are saying that there's a plan to impeach the deputy president. Would that be the right direction to go, or if they live together as the presidency?
Ideally, that's quite a sad state of affair, because none other than the president and the deputy president promised that they will not use police or state agencies to deal with their politics. The issues that we are seeing, we know that there is a political rift, and the calendar, it's time for him to now start, also being honest about these things, as he says, the new Secretary General, because you must be honest, you must start by acceptance. There is a problem between the two, and everyone is seeing, even the blind people are seeing this. To that extent, you would require internal party dispute mechanisms to deal with those issues, because if a president and a deputy cannot resolve their issues, how then will Kalende and Malala resolve their issues? And you cannot then bring in, because I happened to have interacted with some of these people who were summoned, and these officers have nothing on them. Once you have something on someone, you'll just call them to do a statement. You've already forward the file to the DPP approves, and you continue. But you cannot have people are summoned yesterday, they are being summoned again today. You are actually on a fishing expedition. It flies against the promise that they gave, and if they can do this to themselves, what about the people in opposition? And maybe that's why many people are running towards government, because you may then assume to get protection, and people like my senior here may be out in the cold, and the same can be used against them. It is not a proper way. It is not the hygienic way of dealing with their problems. And if it comes to an issue of impeachment, this is the very worst of times to even think about impeachment. The country, this government has never settled. It's been issue after issue. Once they got into power, there were those demonstrations led by Raila Odinga. Before even things settle, we have economic issues. Before things settle, we have now the Gen Z issue. Even before the Gen Z issue goes away, we are already creating other issues within the ruling party by saying that we want an impeachment. An impeachment process will, if we are already on 90 degrees, will be on 100 degrees or more if we bring the issue of impeachment. Does it really augur well with the issue of government settling, with the issue of the nominees that we want to put into office so that they work? But out there, politics will be high octane, that you'll find other people saying we are with the deputy president, we are with the president. It does not then help in terms of the actual core mandate of this administration to deliver and ensure that the environment which will be conducive to deliver is there. It is ill-informed, ill-advised, and if that attempt is even actualized, remember the threshold is very high, because it's the same threshold that you'd use to impeach a president. If it fails, then what happens to these people? When we do divorce cases as lawyers, it is not expected that you do a divorce case between a husband and a wife who live together and go to the same bedroom every night, and tomorrow you are in court doing a divorce case. It is not expected. So that will be the condition or the situation that will bring this country into this situation.
So that attempt on its own, whether successful or not, will still be catastrophic.
Will still be catastrophic. Remember, even if this husband has another, we are calling Mpango Wakando, that Mpango Wakando cannot be in the same house together with the actual wife. It is disaster. And maybe in the fullness of time, Raila Odinga is supposed to go to the AU. But at this particular point, he's still he's been invited into this house. I don't know how this family will actually work within the atmosphere of Kenya. And I think that's why my colleagues, they are wise to stay out. You only go there when you are the only bride, or when the circumstances have now forced and everything is arranged.
Manzo, is there a way to separate the two anyway? Or should the presidency, if it's a matter of impeachment, then it's all the entire presidency, which makes the president and the deputy?
Yeah, I think there's no way to separate the two, and consequently, if you want to impeach the deputy, you must also impeach the president, and that's what the Gen Zs want, the presidency out. But that not be the case right now. If a motion is moved against the deputy president, first of all, that's a political witch hunt. There are no sufficient grounds which have been laid so far to warrant the impeachment of the deputy president. And if they brought it to the floor, there is such possibility. Now that ODM is working with the government, that they may get the 2/3. But should they miss the 2/3 with even one vote, which could be my vote, because the matter will be brought to Senate, then it is like cutting a snake which is already in the house, the tail end instead of the head. Then they are going to have a lot of trouble, and I believe they won't be able to have a government. They have already shown a sword or bad intention against the deputy president. I think is most unfair. They have questioned very innocent people. I doubt whether the deputy president was associated with the Gen Zs at all. Gen Zs are so independent. They say they don't want politicians in their activities. And I don't think they did that. We also are politician associated with the government, giving money on the streets. In fact, demonstrations, if there is a Gen Z demonstration, there should not be another authorized demonstration. If the government to demonstrate, it should have its day. If Gen Zs demonstrate, it should have their day. And what happened in UDA offices, the police were there, they didn't kill anyone. If there are and the people express themselves. If there are demonstrations, we don't expect anybody who is unarmed to be killed. And therefore, I want to wish the deputy president well. Right. And should there be...
My apologies, Manzo. We have to cross over to Parliament where the vetting has just kicked off. I believe the cabinet nominee for Interior is currently there. Let's listen in.
Honorable members, our clerk, my deputy, the deputy speaker, members of the press, fellow Kenyans. The Committee on Appointments is established under Standing Order 204 of the National Assembly Standing Orders. It is mandated to consider for approval by the House appointments under Article 152 of the Constitution. In conducting the vetting and approval hearings, the committee shall be guided by the Constitution, the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, and other relevant statutes. The committee held its first sitting on Thursday, 25th July 2024, and considered the brief on arrangements that have been put in place for the conduct of approval hearings. The committee